Good evening. So this is where I show you my favorite track. This is a request even. I'm quite sure that lots of people love the Nurburgring Nordschleife if they're into playing racing games. Myself, I've spent a lot of time on this track and still wouldn't say I've mastered it. I'm not sure you ever really do. So, but here we have the BMW V12 LMR, which is a Le Mans prototype. It actually won that race in 1999, and it's got a wonderful sounding engine, and it's a really fun car to drive. As you can see, I've modded the car a little bit, what little you can do in this game. Basically changed out the rims, and I believe you can do a tire width upgrade. So essentially this car is, it's even beyond the R1 category, it's in the X category, because essentially it's maxed out. So there you have the car, and let's go ahead and get started because this is a really long circuit. So. Here we start on basically the long main straight, and this is actually where, if you were there as a tourist, you would start, but it's not considered by purists as the actual starting point of the lap, so. But here is the bridge. The bridge is often considered the starting point by tourists who are timing their lap, which not encouraged to time your lap when you're trying to be a tourist around this circuit, because people don't like it when you crash and close it. But anyway, here is the old pits complex, you can see there, and over there to the left is the Grand Prix circuit. The entry is there, and here's the exit back to come back out onto the Nordschleife when the 24-hour race is running, but they join both tracks to make one big long track. Unfortunately, Forza doesn't allow you to do that in practice. Here we come into the first series of bends, the Hatzenbach section. Lots of corners that very tricky. It's hard to learn at first. I think a lot of people, part of the reason they're not interested in the Nordschleife is because it's just so long and so complex. There's the Hawkeye Canyon section, the Great Oaks. There's lots of blind corners, lots of bumps, corner complexes with just so many turns that it's hard to figure out what's the right line. Here we come into the Flugplatz, because you're usually getting airborne through there, and then you've got to settle the car into that double right-hander. Flat out all the way through here, which is the Schwedenkreuz. The Swedish cross. Sorry, my German pronunciation isn't going to be the best, so I'll just do what I can here. But and then we come into this great long left-hander, which is easy to throw you off, and then into Arenberg, where you can see they've been gracious enough to add a big sand trap to keep you from totally going nuts if your brakes die. So here we come under and down into the foxhole, Fuchsrohr it's called in German. Lots of crazy little bumpy bends, and then a compression that usually flattens your car quite well. And really tricky entry into these little corners here. This is called the Adenauer Forest, and often referred to as the newbie's corner right here, because it just sneaks up on you, and most people will at some point get caught out and go right through that grass with plenty of onlookers to cheer you on. And then we exit there, back into kind of the high-speed stuff, heading towards Metzgesfeld, which is a very fast left-hander, and then you have to immediately brake and usually drop 2 or 3 gears for the entry to Kallenhard. Another really tricky downhill braking, bumpy, long, hard to find the apex and the exit. And then we come into into Spiegel curve, or mirror curve. Left, right, and then here's the 3 rights. Miss, hit, miss, it's called, because that's what you're supposed to do with the apexes. And then we come to veer siphon. Slowest point on the lap. Yeah, I usually drop down to 1st or 2nd gear, and then power on out of here. And then we head down to the bride side corner. Now if you're a member or have a season pass or whatever, you have an entry and exit point right here. And obviously you can see that's a town, and there's hotels and so forth. Exmühle, which is watermill. Really tricky, slippery, off-camber corner there. It's bumpy as well. And then we come to the Lauda Links, so named because of Niki Lauda, and you'll see why if you go and watch that new movie called Rush, which Ron Howard directed. And then we come to Bergwerk, probably one of the most important corners because it leads onto a long blast of full throttle, uphill. All these bends are gentle enough that you can just keep your foot all the way down. Somewhere in here there's a section named Klostertal, which is, I believe it's Convent Valley is what it means, but this corner is the one you look for. It's called Angst Curve, or Mut Curve, fear, or courage curve, they call it. And then another little blind crest and right-hander there. And then we come to Stylstrecke. It's really easy to mess this one up and end up with lots of understeer or no grip in the rear, depends on the car you're driving. And then you have the carousel that you have to drop into. Boom! All this concrete banking. Some cars actually drive around it instead of dropping into it because it is kind of harsh. But in the game we'll go ahead and drive right through it because damage modeling is pretty mild. I have it turned all the way on. And now we're coming up to the Hohe Acht, which is the highest point on the circuit. From here it's pretty much downhill. Got this long Hedwig Ho corner, and then we are heading into the section that precedes the Whipperman. This is a famous, it's called Seesaw Man in English because it drops down and then it comes back up on the other side. And you drop over this bunch more blind corners into Eschbach, which is the Ash Brook, and into the Brunchen section, which is another gallery point because people love to watch all the people making mistakes through here. Happens a lot. A couple of corners that are kind of identical to each other. So. And then we have the ice curve here because it's one of the last places to stop being wet if it rains, and so it's slippery a lot. Now we're coming through the first half of the Flansgarten. Big drop right there. You have to be really careful because once again you're right into a long double right-hander, then a series of left-handers. This huge drop right here comes into the second half of the Flansgarten. Again, lots of blind crests and turning left, right, but it is just poetry to watch cars run through that section if you're standing still there. And then here we come to Schwalbenschwanz, which is this, I think it's sparrow's tail, swallow's tail, shape of a bird's tail. Then through the Kleine Carousel, the mini carousel. And finally, we come to Galgenkopf, which is the last series of corners. And here you're usually trying to carry as much speed as you can, but if you make a mistake, you're in the grass for a very long time. And it's so much work to get to this point that it can be very mind-bogglingly frustrating if you make a mistake there and blow your whole lap. And then here we come and you can see all of the paddock and the restaurant and the toll booth where you pay to take your laps. Alright. And 8 minutes have already blown by, just that long, just that fast. It's kind of amazing. So, here we go on a more lap on the limit, or as close as I can get while still trying to talk to you guys. If I had to name one thing that I miss the most from other games I've played to playing Forza, it would definitely be the fact that you can join the two parts of the Nurburgring together, so very nice of them to pave that stone section. The curbs were really flat, so you can drive right over them. As you can see, most of the curbs, when you drive on them, they bump the car up and down and can totally mess up your balance. So. Pretty amazing that this car can. I mean, I have the aero totally maxed out. That's the most downforce that the car can produce, at least in the front of the car, and yet it still does 220 miles an hour. It's just amazing. So much power, you have to be really careful. But you also kind of have to push as much as you can, because the faster you're going, the more downforce you have and the more grip you have. So sometimes going slower and being cautious is when you're going to actually make mistakes. And lots of racing drivers often say that not only being cautious does it just throw you off, you know, the capabilities of the car, but your concentration is the most important thing to maintain, your focus. So those little fractions of a second, I should say, that you're not paying attention. I mean, when you're going basically the length of a football field every second, you can imagine those small fractions of a second that you're not totally concentrating, how much distance you're covering. So it's, yeah, very, very difficult to try and, you know, back off and trying to be conservative or whatever, you know. The changes in the car's balance can be really shocking. You're supposedly taking it easy and all of a sudden the car doesn't do what you want it to. get to this point without making any major mistakes. As you can see, for once, my lap time doesn't have a big exclamation point next to it, which is basically telling me that as far as the game is concerned, I haven't broken any of the rules for the boundaries of the track. So what do we get here? 6 minutes 15.9, which is not too bad. And it looks like I've only spent 14 minutes or so, 15 minutes. There we go. Well, hope you enjoyed that. For once, I actually made it all the way through the video, I hope. This is maybe, I don't know, my 20th try at making this. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And, you know, feel free to let me know if there's any other tracks you want to see. These are quite a lot of fun to do, actually. I do also have other non-racing games in mind, possibly to show at some point. But yeah, I guess that'll depend on when I get the chance and how many of you, you know, want to see more of that. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate all of the feedback I've been getting from everyone, and you know, everyone's been really kind, and it's really inspiring to watch. You know, all of the other people that are sometimes even doing videos that are similar in content to mine, and I really find that fun. And you know, like I said, it's very great that the whole ASMR community exists. I try to take as many moments as I can to just be glad that it's out there. So anyway, just babbling now, so I'll let you go now. Like I said, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.